Going live. I've clicked the button. It says I'm live, and let's see what happens here. I'm clicked on there, and there's somebody talking. Anyway, so right, let's do this bit and go headphones. Right, that should just be me now. So if I skip the ad, there should be me, and there I am. And let me just check whether we got any sound problems this week. And it's less of a car crash. So here we go. I've got the headphones on. Sounds all right to me. I'm not going to turn the volume up. I'll just get closer. Is that better? I'm just checking for myself. Yeah, sounds all right. Good-o. Right. Fine. Thank you. I will just... nothing on there. Right, okay. Just checking whatever was on there. Eggle's on. Good, Eggle. Thank you very much. Eggle says hearing me just fine. So that's good. Last week we had some sort of, I don't know what it was, but I was wittering away quite happily, and I had checked with the headphones and everything, and it decided that it was going to go into some sort of delaying, screaming, howling feedback, some sort of, I don't know what it was. And of course, the trouble with these lives is if you edit them, you can download them and edit them, but if you edit them on YouTube themselves, they cut out all the feedback stuff that you're getting. Not feedback, wrong word. The chats get deleted and everything else goes. So if you end up having to edit one of these, it makes the right mess of it. You're actually better off downloading it and then uploading it as a normal video. But recently, and I don't know why, but recently YouTube have made it, if you download your own videos, you end up with the logo or watermark where it says YouTube Shorts on it, which is not so good if you're using it as a store for your videos. Luckily, all mine, well, except for lives, all mine are stored on my computer. But there we go. That's just the way it is. So, good evening, Eggle. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to see you again. And yeah, right. It's Wednesday, and I believe everything's still working. It's just gone 100 hours in the UK, and it's me. Ta-da! Right. Okay. That's the cheerful bit. No good. No. Okay. So, what can we talk about this week? I'm reckoning. Let me just check on here. Just checking on here. Everything's all right now. We have 2 concurrent viewers, which is me and Eggle, and we're not buffering, so that's good. Let me just get onto there. Do my normal thing. I've got something I want to show, a bit of show and tell, but and give people a chance to decide if they want to join in. And oops, what am I doing there? I'm losing bits. I've rearranged my stack in front of the computer and I couldn't see what I'm doing then. Right, okay, let me just have a quick look. We normally do just as a method of doing something. Let me just see what Eggle's having to say. No, nothing. Right, okay. I wish I could spell. I'll leave it at that. Oh, you got yeah. Okay, so I can do things. Yeah. I've not seen these bits before. They keep, interestingly enough, or boringly enough, whichever way you look at it, they keep changing things on YouTube. So what you can do one week, you can't do another, or you can do more one week than you could do the previous week, which is always confusing because you never know what's going to be happening. It's a bit like Facebook. They have a habit of changing stuff all the time. So you click on what used to work and it doesn't anymore. And as does Microsoft. I don't know if you noticed, all my videos with the tapes all had the images were all taken from Audacity. And they would, sorry, I got a bit of a headache. They were all taken from Audacity, and the thing was, I used to just use the snip tool, and it used to just put it into the clipboard, and then I could paste it, and it was great. Now the clip tool doesn't do that. Now the clip tool puts them in different places. I used to save them to a specific directory. Now, and I used to save them as JPEGs. Now the clip tool insists that it should be PNG, and it will insist on putting it into a system directory, which you then got to go and rescue them from. It just makes life so much more difficult. I mean, I've been using the clip tool since, well, what was the first Windows? Windows 3? No, Windows 95. And I've been using the clip tool since then, and now they change it. So from 95 until 2003, it was fine. Beginning of 2003. End of 2003, they've screwed it up. Why? Just because they can. It's ridiculous, but there we go. There's nothing I can do about it. It's not within my power, but that's strange. What I was going to talk about, first of all, we'll just do the quick click round, see what other people are talking about. I had the misfortune to have a Vinylize short pop up on my feed the other day, which I clicked off fairly quickly. It's just one of those things. I find that's. I like the shorts actually. When you go onto shorts, you get to see people you wouldn't normally see. I'm increasing my subscriber list. So we got Mr. G Stuff, which is quite interesting, and I've obviously got people like Video 99 and people who are in the same niche as me, because A, I want to know what they're doing, and B, I'm interested in what they're doing. Yeah, it's not a case of knowing, it's not sneaking, it's not finding out what's occurring, it's actually watching to see, like, for instance, Techmoan, Westlife, Recordology. Haven't seen much from Recordology just recently. Let's see what he's doing. I know he's had some sort of, he's going through, he wasn't well. He's had, I think he said it was the appendix, which is a shame. I had mine out when I was 7, so it was a lot easier for me. So get well soon, Mr. Recordology, and best wishes. And let's see, Techmoan's latest one was the Sony Next speakers. If you haven't seen that one, it's quite interesting. If it's interesting how the what he's talking about has progressed. Westlife's got a new one which I haven't seen yet, but the last week he had one up about speakers, external speakers for like amateur radios and CBs and stuff, and also just wall-mounted. What would you call them? The sort of speakers that you have just for background music in like a pub or a club or something, just where it's which you would attach to a tannoy if you wanted to do public announcements, that sort of thing. He's got a new one out, vaporwave detection, but I haven't actually seen that one yet. So, but 602 views per hour he's got currently on that, so he doesn't need me to watch it just yet, but I will do. I will watch that later on after this one, probably. When did that come up? It came up yesterday evening, I think. There's nobody else on there that I think is particularly relevant at the moment. So that's the quick review of the other people. Let's go back and see what's on there. Kelvin. Eggle says batteries. What about those NiCad ones? Are they better than the others? Yeah. Kelvin says, what's happening, dudes? And Eggle says, Gary's happening. Yeah, I'm happening. why I mentioned batteries. I will tell you why I mentioned batteries. I can probably show you a picture which you might find of interest if I can get it up on here. Actually, I might show you I'm going to do a little video on it, because last night, quite happily, went to bed knowing that the house had been made safe, as you do. And what I'll show you is, if I can get this to work. There is no sound, so I'll just talk over it. But let me see. This is... Right, let me stop that. Went to bed quite happily with some batteries that I put on the table. About 6 or 7 batteries. NiCads, or NiMuFs actually. Limus, whatever they are. The latest type. You can see that's 1300 milliamp hour. So, went to bed, and that was fine. Went to bed fairly early, actually. Got up this morning, I opened the door, and I looked, and I thought, why are there batteries on the floor? And there were 2 batteries on the floor, and then I looked at the table, and there were several... I'd sort of just thrown the batteries into... I'd just thrown them into the corner. See if I can do one. No, that's not going to work. Yeah, so I've just thrown them into the corner of the table. And so you've got this sort of pile of batteries. Splat of batteries, probably better description. And like I say, came down this morning. There's 2 on the floor. Actually, there might be 3 on the floor. The floor looking a bit woofy. The table where I put them, there was a scattering, and it just didn't look right. So what I did was I looked around, and this is what I found when we looked into it properly. Let me just bring this up. Now, this is what you're going to see. This is a NiCad battery, or a NiMuF battery. And as you can see, 2,300. It had totally discharged itself. It's on a loop. There is nothing in there at all. There is, however, a burn mark on... Let me just stop that. There is a burn mark on the tablecloth, which is where it was put. And there is... and there is soot. There was soot all over everything that was on the table. The batteries that were in the sort of like the splatter batteries had got scattered by it. So this thing had gone off like a rocket. And it had actually... in fact, I'll get it. Don't go away. I am. Oh, there we go. Right. What you can see there is what I just showed you on the video. And you can see it's totally empty. And this was also on the floor, which is a mesh. All the entire contents of the battery, including bits of this, had spewed out, and it basically gone off like a rocket. Totally like a rocket. I've been using NiCads, NiMuFs, whatever, all the different batteries over the years, since, well, basically when they became cheap enough to use, which was 1982, isn't it, when the CBs came out. So, been using rechargeable batteries since then. I've had one erupt in the charger, which was about 25 years ago, and I've had this one. Obviously there's the computer battery, which I'm not counting, but this was just taken off charge, put on the table and left. It makes me think, well, it's worrying, the fact that that could happen. Luckily we had our kitchen door shut, which is where it was, and we knew nothing about it, but it could have been serious. As it happens, my wife's... Well, it was our wedding anniversary yesterday, and our wedding anniversary cards were on the table. They're now blackened. not totally black, but blackened. And my wife's knitting basket was on there, and that's got black discharge into it. The floor was totally black where it landed and sort of spun round, I guess. It's yeah, quite serious. Yes, yes, Eggle, it might have started a fire. The actual, like I say, we've got a tablecloth, nylon tablecloth, which is on top of a sort of a dense sponge thing, and it had actually burnt a hole in the tablecloth, melted a hole in the tablecloth, and the sponges was sort of, well, melted. It didn't damage the actual wood under the table, but it could have done. And as you say, it could have started a fire. Oh, it looks like an internal dielectric breakdown causing a short circuit. I've seen it on industrial scale to spectacular effects. I'm guessing it's not dissimilar to a Tesla. Get a Tesla, charge it up, run it around a few days, and then set light to a car park or something. And obviously we've seen it on all these e-scooters and things, but I've never seen it in a domestic battery. So just forewarned is forearmed. I'm going to make sure that I put these in places that are safer in future. Just on the table isn't good enough, and it's not until you see it that you know it. It's just one of those things, I guess. Anyway, right. Anybody got anything else they'd like to talk about? What else did I call it? Let's talk about batteries. Oh yes, photos, and latest videos, and what's up next, live stream. Yeah, so I'm going to put that little thing as a short, the battery there, because shorts are important to the channel. The channel, everybody, if you don't do shorts, you don't get so many subscribers. It's as simple as that. Trying to think of things to put on shorts isn't that easy when you're doing a how-to channel, but and that was that. The talk about photographs and things, I thought I'd mention that because you've seen the box and you've seen the tape deck that I got, which I did the quick look-see on. My dad's tape deck, 1960-ish minimum Kelvin. Leica batteries usually have a recharge shelf life. Yeah. Anyway, the problem with with that video I did on the Concertone thing, there is no model number on it, and I was really quite disappointed. I've seen it in bits about, well, bearing in mind I'm 66. Make no bones about it, I'm 66. I've got my bus pass. And I was about, I was 23 when I got married and left home. And I was 22 when I left home. And so therefore it was 60, 70, 80, 1980 I left home. So there we go. So that machine had been used fairly well by my dad until around about, I don't remember seeing it the last 5 years or whatever. That it was put in the shed. It was just left there. I couldn't find any information on the Constantine. No, there's. I put a thing on tape heads, and a guy has put on there saying that he doesn't know anything about that particular model, but that there was that it was an American brand that transferred manufacturing to Japan, and they were mostly made by TIAC later on. But it's very well built. I mean, I remember it, like I say, I was about 10, 15 last time I saw it really working. And I remember it was a nice piece of kit, but it wasn't particularly, I mean, all the Akai's and things had come out by then, and with the twin VUs and stuff. But bearing in mind, it was bought around about 1958, 59. There's audio of my brother. One of those tapes. One's a 1938 or 48 jazz concert, which Dad bought from somewhere, I think. Or he got it off the radio, I don't know. I haven't been able to play the tape back. I have got an Akai reel to reel in my in our junk room, which should still work. I bought it to a few years ago, and the other tape is my brother as a child, and there will obviously be other, but they're the only 2 or 3 tapes that we've got what's in that box. Unfortunately, this is the trouble with all storage media. It gets lost. It gets the equipment ceases to work. I mean, I've got videos on V2000, home videos on V2000. I've got a V2000 machine. I can't plug it in because it needs a new reefer cap, and I haven't really got around to doing that yet. I've got stuff on Super VHS. I haven't got a Super VHS deck that works. I have got one that doesn't work, which did work the last time I tried it, but before recently, which I bought specifically to do transferring, and same old problem. And yeah, so it's a real problem that which is why I did the look into the side to see that it's still there. Which is why I did the thing about the film scanner. Trying to keep life simple. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, but I didn't want to go cheap, and that's why I thought I'd try. Amazon is great. I mean, I've got affiliate links, and I'm not just saying Amazon's great for any particular reason other than the fact that if you want to buy something from Amazon, click on one of my links first and then go and buy it from whatever you want from Amazon. It won't cost you any more, but it will help support the channel. I mean, that's the plug out of the way. But what I think is great about Amazon and is that you can see something, because if you were in something like Curry's or whatever, and you thought, well, I don't know which one of these to buy, I'll go for that one. But you can hear it, you can feel it, you can see it, and then if you get it home and find it's got a problem, you can take it back and say, "Oi, I did that with a computer. Looked and saw a lovely computer back. Oh, this is 2020. Nice Toshiba computer. Got it home, the one in the box that they gave me. Opened it up, found it had some dead pixels on the screen. Took it back, and they said, "Ooh, no, we don't cover pixels." And I said, "Tell you what, mate, if you may not cover pixels, but I'm not having this computer because I don't want one with pixels that don't work. And seeing as you sold me a closed box, you'd better sort it out. Otherwise, I'm going to get the money refunded elsewhere." And they sort of, "Okay, here's one." So we opened it in the shop and it was fine. But what I'm saying is, with Amazon, you obviously don't have that opportunity, even if you do have to get heavies out. But what you do, or what they do, is they have a reasonably good returns policy. So if you buy something and it doesn't do what you need it to do, you can send it back. Yeah, that battery was a Encore 2300. It's supposed to be a premium battery, but I don't know. This is the trouble. You don't know when you buy these things. Yeah, the DPI thing is what I was going to say. When I looked at the scanner thing, using my phone, which is a Vio. It's not a Sony, but it's a whatever, and it produces a 9 megapixel image on those slides, but it works out at what the professionals call the correct rate, DPI, whatever. Using the scanner software that is paid for, the slide scan, that only works out at half resolution, and it's a problem. But when you're looking at these scanners, I mean, I remember when cameras used to cost £35,000 for just the tubes, and if you wanted to, we're talking silly money, but broadcast quality and all that sort of thing was really important. Hello, what's gone on there? Why has that done that? That's not what's meant to be on there. What's on there? Yeah. The first time was 72 or 960 ppi is based on the resolution of a CRT monitor. Exactly. If I was to bring up a photograph, a pure photograph, if I'd do it, because I had this discussion with a publisher a little while ago. My wife was doing some work for a charity, and they had a newsletter which they had published, and she had some photographs which she had taken with her smartphone, and it was a very good smartphone, and they it was a 9 megapixel or more picture of this event which was going on. And so they said, if you've got any pictures of the event, can you send them to us? So she sent them to them by email, and they came back and said, we can't use these. What do you mean you can't use them? I said, we can't use them. It's only 72 dpi. We need a minimum. Our printer says we need a minimum of 300 dpi. Now, this was an A5 newsletter where this photograph was going to be the size of, 2 by 2, something like that. And they're saying that this picture that she'd got, which was of the venue, was no use. And they were saying that the reason it was no use was because it was only 72 dpi. Now, that's ridiculous because, quite simply, it was a 9 megapixel picture. But they'd got this DPI thing stuck in their head, and therefore it was of no use to them, they said. Now, that is silly, because cameras don't produce DPIs. They produce pixels, size by size. And that's where the argument went. And just so you can see what I've got on here, I'll bring it up. Boom. And remember to do this bit. Right, okay. If you can see, this is actually genuinely the calculator. If you take a 1080 by a 1920, which is over in the corner, but I'll do it on here, look. Let's do a clear. 1080 by 1920. So we all know what that is, don't we? That's the resolution of standard HD, right? Equals 2,073,600. That's how many pixels are in a HD picture as broadcast by the BBC. And if there's no way around that. And if you take the pictures that we were looking at on the scanner software, it was 2344 by 1562 by 1562, and we hit that button. That's a 3.6 megapixel image from that software. And the reason it's only a 3.6 megapixel is because of the focal length of the lens on my camera, on my phone, because there is no adjustment for the size. It does say try and get the thing closer, but if you're using that stand, you can't do that. Then if you go on to this one, this is 4,000 by 2,256. That's the answer. 9.24 megapixels. And if you take the a 300 by 300 image on a scan, you're talking about 300 by 400. This is the result. This is what right, okay. Because the size of a slide or a negative is roughly it's 0.9 of an inch by 1 1/4 inches but we'll just say, so 1 inch by, no, that's not right. Let's get rid of that. Clear everything. Right. So we're talking about 300 for the 1 inch, and then we're talking about 400 for the 1¼ inches. Roughly equals. So we've got 120,000 if you scan that at that resolution, but you wouldn't. You want a 300 dpi resolution on your final image, not on what you're scanning, because it's small. If you had a proper photograph, ding. If you have that's not the right one. Fade. Right. If you have a proper picture, like a photograph, which is going to be that by that, if you scan that at 300 dpi, which is considered to be HD, then you will get a very big picture. But you can't, to get that small size, so this is where this thing came in. I don't know if anybody saw it on the actual video, but I will pull it up because if I can find it. This is where you get to see my secrets. On my PC there are hundreds of files, and I do things in some sort of sense of order, even if I look like it's a car crash. Normally it's very slow for sorting this thing out when it's streaming. But this is now looking for the appropriate folder. Come on, find the appropriate folder. So this is finding the appropriate folder, supposedly. Let's try that again. Right, so there we go. Then there's my bit about scan for photos. Scanner for photos. And then we come to various other things on here. So there's pictures, videos, etc., etc. And what I want to show is, no, not those. Right, this one, which is there. So this is the one that confirms the size of the slide. So that's your 1¼ by 1, whatever. But they're in a 2x2 mount, which is fine. We understand that. And then we go on to, let me see. It should be software tests. Look at. Should be that one. Right. This one is the important one. Let's make it full size. And then zoom in. Right, you can see there, it talks about the scan that you need on a negative to get yourself a good print. So to get a 5x7 inch print, you need to scan a negative at 2000 dpi. And to get a 8x10, you need to do it at 3000 dpi. And to get a 16x20, you need to do it at 4000 dpi. Now, this isn't the only source of this that I found, but this was the one that was the most photogenic, so to speak. And now, if you're going to scan the photo, you normally scan at either 300 dpi or 600 dpi, and you can see the size of the picture. Right. So it goes on to say about whatever, but that's how it works. See, so that's a nice big picture of all the different things. But if you convert that up, 4000 dpi at 1¼ inches by whatever, you're talking about making that 16 times bigger. So if you divide 4000, let's just try this. I'm thinking on my feet here. 4000, 1, 2, 3. Divide that by 16. Was it 16? Yeah, it was. Boom. 250. So that's the equivalent of 250 dpi. At the actual right there and there. So that's at the actual slide. That's the equivalent of 250 dpi. Well, what can one say? There's a lot. Obviously, the other ratios are they're ratios. The other thing was on the pictures. What you will have noticed, and I did point it out, is that it's oh hello. There's an advert. Skip ads. Oh, it's me again. Right. Yeah, and on the actual pictures, you've got grain of the film. So I have experimented with the various. On a normal picture, digital picture, you can zoom in and you can zoom in and you can zoom in, and as you go deep, because as Kelvin says, you're only looking at 72 dpi, whatever it is. As you zoom in to a megapixel picture, you get more and more detail come up because it expands it. Well, when you're working with these scanned images, that doesn't do that to the same extent because you haven't got a huge, image if you're doing it on the slides. You've only got a small image, so it's just one of those interesting things. But it's not until you start playing with this stuff that it becomes apparent. And I found that to be the case in a lot of things. You go in thinking one thing and you come out either confirming it or thinking something totally different. Right, Kelvin says, Kelvin says, in a past life, I spent a year in the print industry and later tried the stock photo market as a sideline that failed due to poor quality images. Right. Then he says, the target print output depends on the intended target. A print for a billboard can have ink blobs the size of tennis balls, but is usually viewed from a distance. Yes, very much like have you seen the big LED TVs, the original ones that were basically they had 1-inch pixels. And at home you're a lot closer. And how do we move that out of the way? Let's go back onto there. Everything insists on trying to give you prompts, which obliterates what I'm looking at. Right, let's get rid of that. Let's go back to that one. And with more detail, yeah. The thing about what I was looking for specifically when I was doing it was the little boxes they produce with the scanner, the proper scanners, if you like, slide scanners, and that they produce. They've got cameras and pickups and things in them already, and they save to SD cards. Well, I didn't know how good that was going to be. This is what I was saying about Amazon. So I thought, well, if this thing isn't any good, then I know that my phone it's got a good camera on it. So therefore, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And if it's not going to work, I'll send it back and get one of the more expensive things. But I must admit, I'm quite pleased with the results. I was surprised on the software. That slide scan software is quite expensive. And that's interesting. What's coming out on my supposedly live feed on here is they're showing me stuff from way back. Let's go back onto there. Yeah, the thing is, like I say, I wanted to make sure that it was actually, before I recommended it or said it was rubbish. And don't forget, I had that Riboson cassette thing, which I did a review on, and that was awful. Yeah, Eggle, is that a flatbed scanner you got? Because this is the other thing that people get confused about, is that if that's a flatbed scanner and it does 1800 dpi, I've got an Epson one which does really high resolutions. I used to have one on Windows 90, well, Windows 2000 I think it was, or something like that, which was really high quality, and then they stopped doing the drivers for it, which was a pain in the arse. Pain in the backside, sorry, shouldn't say that, the A word. And so no, we've got a scanner here, and it does 600 and 1200 dpi. But as a scan, of course, that means that you're actually looking at the picture, and for every inch of that picture, in either direction there will be 1,200 spots taken, which is great. And that is what a high quality scan does. And if you look at the stuff that the museums do, they do incredible stuff for all their art and things. And they got really high quality, high definition, high color depth scanning. But that's because they're doing archive stuff. What we're doing here is just trying to get the pictures, which were never that good in the first place. I mean, I'm actually surprised how bad, because my dad was quite good at photography and he did some photographic stuff. But he always said there was a difference between slides and photos, and we never really went into much detail on that. But when I'm looking at it now, obviously, what he was trying to explain to me was that the slide has, well, it can be brighter than a photo, so presumably it's got a greater contrast ratio than a normal picture that you're printing. So, and that's why you have the HDR functions on your phone, of course, so that your pictures come out with the bright stuff exposed correctly and the dark stuff exposed correctly, trying to give you a better appearance to your picture. Because when you're looking down the road and you can see in the shadows, if you're young, you can see the detail in the shadows. You can also see the detail in the bright stuff. But a camera, by definition, gets blinded, and that's always been a problem. And if you've got a dash cam, you'll realise that at night they're not particularly that useful for a lot of stuff, because if the car's driving towards you, I mean, the useful thing about it is that it's got a picture of these headlights driving towards you. You're not going to get a number plate off that or anything, because quite simply the camera is blinded by the light. I'm sure somebody wrote a song about that. Blinded by the light. No, mustn't sing. Let me see. Eggle says, I've got it. Yeah, Eggle says, no, flatbed scan. This one does kind of negative DIS and photo. All right. Because, yeah, I mean, the problem with flatbeds, of course, is that I've seen a few that do photo negative stuff, which is quite good. We used to use a Nikon film slide scanner with 2 megapixels king. Target was usually magazine covers. Yeah, this is it. The quality of printing has been amazing. I can remember going back in the 90s. Went into a shop that was it was trying to be, well, it started off as a CB shop and it then started trying to do computers and stuff, and went in there and they had I think it was an Epson at the time, and it was one of the first photorealistic printers. I don't know what the resolution was, but we're talking 35 years ago, and it was when if you went into a shop and they had computers, you would see the screen, which would be, the big deep CRT stuff, and you'd see the refreshing of the picture as it went across, and that was on the high speed computers, and that'd be one frame. So there was no way it was ever going to do video, but they did a print of a photograph, and it was absolutely amazing at the time. Nothing compared to now, of course. I used to use Nikon film, yeah. And yeah, so it's amazing. The end result of all this wittering on about the thing is that if you've got a decent camera, now I've got about 5 different phones here, and the cameras are all different quality. Now the one that I used for the video is the one I currently use for my actual video recording. It's got a 48 megapixel setting, and it really does do quite nice pictures. But the camera I had 2 phones ago, well, it wouldn't have done anything worth having, because the camera's naff. So very much it's a case of takes your chances with the camera you got. If you've got an iPhone or a Samsung or one of these decent-ish camera phones, then you're going to get reasonable results from it. Better than, well, I mean, if you've got slides, what's the other option? You get one of those little slide viewer things. It's about that big, and you pop it in, and it just glows at you. Not the best way to look at your pictures, which was back to what I was wittering on about before. I don't know. I mean, this box come from my mum via my brother, and there are photos in there that I've never seen. There are photos of the next generation back, and there's some pictures. The ones that I used in there were the first thing. I don't know who the baby and the christening was, but they were very blue, and the results weren't very good. But the next set, which is what I took the 3 snaps out for the little for the short video, which I put up last night, I think you can see that the quality on those was quite good. You can see the hairs. I see the hairs on the actual transparencies, and you can see the grain. Even with the software, the slide software, it was still, you could still see some grain, but obviously you can see a lot more with the camera in its natural format or the Kodak. Now the beauty of the Kodak one is that you can actually alter the zoom, and so you can get the thing correct. Obviously it's got optical zoom, and well, most good phones have got some sort of optical zoom, and then they got the digital zoom, or they've got enough pixels to make a decent digital zoom. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's see what else we can talk about. What did I put on there? Batteries, photos, latest video. I'm going to do a That's Tape video next, which is try and find out how good the That's tapes are. There you go. My first printer was a dot matrix, no good for photos. All right. Divide 48 by 3 and you get 16 megapixels. Each output pixel is made up of a red, green, and blue pixel. Yeah, you got to go with all this. They when you consider the first, I've got a Canon camera. I have a mouthful. I've got a Canon camera somewhere, and it's the VGA type camera. And you know what? It used to produce very nice pictures. It was I used to work for Everest, the window company, fit the best, fit Everest and all that. And they decided that they were going to go all mega technical, because the biggest problem they had was that cheap companies were selling cheap windows, and cheap windows weren't very good. But it was very hard to sell good windows because people couldn't tell the difference. So they decided they'd do a sales presentation whereby you actually showed them what they were going to look like. So they gave us ULEAD software. We had to buy it. ULEAD software, and we had to buy a Canon VGA camera. But it produced a damn good picture. And the idea was you went around, you took pictures of all their windows, and then you could put in, like Photoshop, the frames and things. So they had a special module made that you could. So you picked the window display that the person was thinking of having, and you just popped it into the appropriate frames, and it sort of did a bit of shuffling. But this was 1992, 93, a long time ago, and so technology has come on a long way since then. But I'll tell you what, looking at the pictures from then, which were only VGA, whatever resolution that means, they were pretty good. But other cameras at the same time were total utter crap. So yeah, that was that. Right, next thing, going to do the video on the That's Tape. Interesting. Did anybody see the chap who put a thing on the cassette decks vintage thing? He put a linear soundtrack VHS and said, "This is a stereo VHS." And he was just sort of saying that it was quite good, but it was not totally compatible with mono. Blah blah blah. And so everybody starts going off on about VHS hi-fi. Which, does anybody ever read what's posted on Facebook? This is the question that comes to my mind. And anyway, so I put my VHS hi-fi video into it. But yeah, interesting the fact that somebody will say, "I'm interested in cats," and then somebody will come back and say, "Well, you know what? Dogs are so bad." And you think, well, hang on, they're talking about cats. It's not the same thing. You're not on that forum, Kelvin. Did you leave it? I can always display it on here if anybody wants to laugh. I do find it. There is a thing where because the guy is talking about a VHS linear stereo with Dolby B, a certain Scandinavian gentleman has put an A4 what's the word? Essay. Yeah, an essay about VHS hi-fi on it. And I just find that amazing. But there we go. It's just it's the folly of Facebook, I think. What's he got going there? They don't seem to read the original posts. Remember where else I hang around? Yeah. That's an interesting thing. I put a thing on Tape Heads about my reel to reel to see if anybody's interested. Well, if anybody knows anything about it, and somebody posted my video on there. It wasn't me, but at least, well, it saves me doing it. I won't post anything on Tape Heads other than just something I can absolutely. Oh, I'll ask a question, but I won't post anything unless I absolutely know that I'm right. So I don't post. I don't post. It's easier that way. I don't like being flamed, particularly when you're being flamed about cats and dogs. I'm talking cats, they're talking dogs. You know what I mean. Egil says, he's doing fine. Yeah. We haven't seen Stephen recently. He's obviously getting, because his work schedules are a bit weird, so he'll probably see the replay tomorrow. And yeah, anyway, that's that. Right, so we've got 4 watching now. We got 5 likes, 6 likes. That's all right then. Well, if anybody got anything they'd like to... Oh, Wasim's in. Good evening. How you doing? It's I was about to, I was going to do the go round and see if anybody wants to talk about anything else, or ask an opinion, or say something provocative, or anything. I don't like cheese. Cheese is the food of the devil. No, I thought I'd just say something provocative. Right, what seems to... been busy as with a garage conversion. Oh. Converted to what? I presume you mean into a what, you've had a garage added, or you've made it into a living space. Another drink. I gave away a load of records today. Went to the Red Cross in Amersham. They're a living space. It's got... Wonder how I'll get rid of that. Just trying to alter the resolution on my... There's a heart on... I'm going to click on something. Yeah, there we go. Don't know what that did, but it did something. Oh, you got a mini disc recorder since last time. Oh, right. And are they? I presume they're working then. I would love to get into mini disc. Mind you, I'd like to actually have room to be able to play the stuff I've got. To be honest, that was the problem with the reel to reel, is that I could take it apart, but as I was undoing stuff, bits of hard leather and plastic, or well, I don't know what it was originally, but if you saw the pictures, the brakes were, I think they were leather, but they might well have been vinyl. they were crumbling and breaking down. And if anybody wants to try and repair it, it's going to be a major job, and they need to at least have a guide as to what was there. If I take it apart and everything falls off, then nobody's got any hope of doing anything. And I don't want. I'd just like to give it to somebody who'd like to be able to make use of it, rather than sort of dumping it in the bin. If I was going to dump it in the bin, I would take it apart first just to see how bad or how good it was inside. I'm on a mission to the moon. Got a cheap and nasty 1000mm lens to try out. They got provocative. I attend a service in St Giles Cathedral with that. Is that provocative? Yeah. I was always under the impression that you were allowed in any church. Although, having said that, I do believe that there was a Scottish chap went to a funeral of one of his friends, and he was excommunicated by his church because it was a different Christian sect. Which I don't understand any of that. Not going down that route. But anyway, right. Anybody got anything else they'd like to throw in to the mix? Any questions? Anything of any kind? Seems a shame that you've only just got here, Wasim, because if nobody says anything, I'm going to be winding it up now. Just looking at the clock. It says it's 5 to 9. 5 to 9? No, yeah, 5 to 9. And, yeah. Nothing else to go with. Right, okay. No, I haven't got anything else either, other than what I was just saying about the Facebook stuff. I've got a couple of memories Facebook groups I'm on, and it's amazing how the memories of people is so different to what the actuality was. Igor said, "Don't know now." Right, I've got some 78s which I'll be doing something with, as you know, and I don't know. I've got some records which I'll go through. Has anybody got any records they're particularly interested in? I've got LPs that may or may not have anything. It's an old lady's, and I'm not being disrespectful to her. She was a keen record collector, obviously in the 60s and 50s. That's where all the 78s came from. And she had records like the White Album by the Beatles. Unfortunately, she didn't keep the pictures, and I got the first edition of the Monkees' first album. And I was just wondering if there's anybody's got any sort of something weird. We got Barbara Streisand, we got Mrs. Mills. If there's any requests, just pop it under here for comments under here. And if there is anything, because I'm going to get a shot of them, because if you saw my living room, the living room is still full of all these records and tapes and things. So if there's anything anybody's particularly interested in, put it on here. If I've got it, I'll sort it out and contact you, and you can decide if you want it or not. I'm not talking about selling it. I'm just talking about just sending it to you. If just cover the postage. There's no money to be made in any of this. It's just a case of I don't want to bin it. I don't want to bin any of this stuff if it's of use to somebody. Anyway, right. I shall wind it up there then, and I shall say to everybody, thank you very much for coming. I'm just typing just to reiterate what I said. There we go. I'm not sure I spelled that right, but in fact, I know I didn't spell it right. I have done now. By the way, they did eventually print that photograph, having realised that they were being silly, having rejected it because it's only 72 dpi, because it was a 9 megapixel. But there we go. That's the end of the story. I shall catch you again next week, people, and yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you very much for coming. I do appreciate it. Wasim, Kelvin, Egil. It's great of you to come. I do appreciate the support, and if you can spread the word, even better. Thanks a lot. Catch you next week then. Bye bye. There should be a button around here. End it. End. Boom.